welcome to another episode of the Bite Down Boxing Podcast. I'm the host, R.L. Woodson, or just Wood. I'm doing this for a YouTube video, but I may go ahead and put it together audio only for a podcast on the Team Left Jab Network website. You can find that at Team Left Jab allnightboxing.com, and then go down and check or click on the network link, and you can find maybe a dozen or more podcasts there by various personalities and some single guys, some duos, some tandems, some former fighters, some West Coast guys, East Coast guys, all of that. So I think I'm gonna put this up because I'm 2 weeks out on the podcast side, and I just been off my game a little bit with and I'll get into that in a second why, but mainly I wanted to get my reaction in on Alberto Machado being upset last night. I did a YouTube video on the Showtime card with the featured event of Gervonta Davis taking out Hugo Ruiz in the first round. So I got that out the way last night, and I wanted to come back and talk about Machado and his loss. Take a look at kind of how Cancio's win kind of turns things, upset the apple cart. Maybe not so much in the WBA as super featherweight with Machado, a fight with Machado versus Tank Davis, not so much. But I don't know. We'll get into all of that. What else? And then I kind of have a conversation on it's kind of stemming from like the bias that you see following some of the YouTube channels, the various boxing YouTube channels, and some of the constant arguments and some of the different narratives. I don't really want to look at this a clash with barbershop conversations, Fred, but I really disagree with a video that was made on what's more economical, or what costs more, costs less, pay-per-view, the pay-per-view model versus DAZN. And it's not really so much that this is a diss track or, a response per se, but more let me offer my perspective on it, and we'll move on. It's really really not about creating any smoke there, but for everybody, depending on how you report this game and how you cover this game, to me, it's a bit of a turnoff if we're not going to, hold all of the networks, the promoters, the fighters, such and such. If we're not gonna, hold everybody to kind of the same standards, and that's typically what we do. Is it's okay, like I keep saying, we're okay with the BS as long as we like the person that's doing the BS. Perfect example, this fight with last night's win for showcase of Gervonta Davis. That was not a competitive fight. It wasn't going to be a competitive fight. The fight with Morris really was not going to be. It may have gone longer than that first round. I'd hate to disrespect Morris on that level, but I'm still thinking between third and fourth round. Realistically, I think he might have had some problems. By the way, did anybody see anybody else in that hospital where he did the eye surgery? Did you see any other nurses or patients? Like, that was a real clean hospital that they were in. And I'm not even trying to feed into a conspiracy theory or that being staged. Obviously it made no sense for Tank to fight Ruiz instead of Morris, but we could have just took bruh's word for it on why the fight didn't happen. But that was just, I'm assuming if they were in there recording stuff that they asked people to hold up that were on the sides. Hold up real quick, let us get this shot in, or you see somebody recording something so you don't step in the way. But it wasn't a lot of foot traffic in that, and maybe it wasn't even a hospital. Maybe it was just a doctor's office, one of those secondary, what do they call them, outpatient places or something where they do some different procedures, but it's not at a hospital. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. But let's look into this. Let's look into this DAZN card with the headliner of Alberto Machado and Andrew Cancio. First of all, let me jump back for a second. I've been having problems with, right now it's so much boxing that it's challenging to watch it all. And the good thing about DAZN is that typically you can watch the fights on demand at least by the next day. I tried to go on after the Showtime program last night and check out the action from Indio, and I couldn't get to it. I messed around with it for about 10 or 15 minutes, and it wouldn't let me join it live. Then I messed around and got on Facebook and saw what the result was, and I was a little pissed off at myself because, to sit and watch a fight that you already know the result of takes away the drama. So, Showtime. One thing that I just noticed with the trying to go back and watch the undercard or the opening fights, the co-feature of the Pacquiao and Broner fight. When I went to go watch it yesterday, I could not watch the Ubali and Rashid Warren fight. And I couldn't even watch Brown and Badu Jack. So, this is just some stuff to think on as you make your decisions on a week-to-week basis of what I'm going to watch real time and what I'll go back and watch, afterwards. Now, I do believe on the Showtime Extreme or what have you, when they go back and reshowed a card such as the Pacquiao-Broner fight, I'm assuming that they showed you the entire card that was aired on the pay-per-view, at least on there when they did the week after replay. I'm assuming all the fights were on there. But once it moved over to on demand, what I'm saying is that I couldn't watch the first two fights. So I was a little disappointed on that. But anyway, like I said, on Friday, Saturday, even tonight, we have a card on ESPN for Sunday night, which is a nice move by ESPN. It could be, you could miss some stuff. I also, I went out last week to do something with my wife during the, this last ESPN Plus card. Can't even think of what it was now, but, I left to go do something thinking I'll just come back and watch it on demand. I know I'll be back for the featured fight, and, I'll go do something with my wife. Then this week I come back in and I try to jump in and I go all over the ESPN Plus app, which isn't the greatest app to try to navigate, but there is no on demand. They don't really archive the fights like that over there at ESPN Plus. I'm going to take a quick pause because I want to know exactly what card I'm talking about. All right. Alvarez and Kovalev, the rematch. That's the card that I stepped out for. And there was some fights on there that I wanted to see. But I stepped out knowing I was going to miss a fight or two. But I missed the Carlos Adames fight and then the Gab Nazarov guy. I missed those fights. And really only came back and saw saw the main event, I believe. So you kind of got to keep some of this stuff in mind week to week, what you're going to watch real time, what you'll let go past knowing that you can see it later. So, but let's jump into this fight, to this card, man. Machado and Cancio. Damn good fight. I had no expectation of. I didn't really know what. I just wanted to see Machado. Mainly because my thinking was that at some point, Machado could be an interesting guy, potential opponent for Tank Davis. Seeing him on the earlier or that same night, seeing him on Showtime. Although, like I said, this really didn't do anything for Tank because it just solved the issue with this regular and super title that they have, that the WBA has. So who knows if, what would have been the impetus for, Mayweather Promotions and Tank to try to fight Machado outside of the fact for some BS happened for Machado to have the regular title and for Tank to fight Cuellar for the vacant title that was later determined to be the super title. So, like I said, who knows if Mayweather Promotions and company would have even cared about resolving that discrepancy. But getting into the fight, all I knew was, some limited stuff here about Cancio. Lost to Joe Diaz in 2017. We learned on the program he is a full-time, has a full-time job for like South California Gas or something. And a phenomenal moment for him, really. That's one of the good moments in boxing, something that we tune in for. But looking at the fight, Machado has been putting guys away. Is very, has the height advantage, being at about 5'10.5" is what he's listed as. Cancio listed at 5'6.5". I thought it'd be a rather short night for Machado, and that just didn't happen. That wasn't how it played out. Machado had the clean combination in the first round that put Cancio down. Looked like it was a right hook on the ear that kind of got Cancio in some trouble, and then a left uppercut is what finished him. What finished it off and dropped him. Good stuff. One thing that I liked about Rey Vargas and Machado, and then seeing Mario Barrios over on Showtime, was some men that have some real height advantages in their weight division, but real great hand-eye coordination in hitting some of these guys, these shorter guys, when they were trying to slip punches real low, bending at the knees a lot, getting really low in their stances. I thought all three of those guys in their respective fights did very well with the left hook and catching, these shorter men, down on the ground. Obviously, with Machado, that was his power hand. Not so much the same for Rey Vargas and Barrios, but I enjoyed just checking that out with the hand-eye coordination and being accurate helping to be accurate with the punches. But Cancio gets up and fought back well in the second half of the first round. Then in the second round, Cancio's eye, his left eye, was bruised up pretty badly already from good right hooks from Machado. But I'm just looking at my notes. But Cancio was doing well, even as a shorter man. He was doing well with his left hook, connecting from different angles, and fighting his way back into the fight, and really starting to show some early signs of being a problem for Machado. Getting into the third, Cancio's pressure is truly becoming problematic for Machado. In the third, he was landing everything pretty much. He was walking Machado down. He was slipping his shots easily, hitting him from different angles. just punished Machado in that round. Hit, like I said, very accurate that round, landing the majority of his power shots, just taking control of the fight. So much so that the referee went over to Machado's corner afterwards and took a long look at him, and just let Freddie Roach know that, what's going on with your guy here, show me something. He took a lot of damage that round. So then coming out into the fourth, Machado is out with his jab is virtually gone. If he is shooting anything with the jab, it was really lazy. He had some lazy sweeping right hooks. All of this work was allowing Cancio to get around to different angles, to throw shorter shots in between that stuff, and Machado was starting to take punishment. Basically, his jab went away altogether, which allowed his height, his reach, and length to be negated or nullified. And Cancio just ran the guy over. I mean, he saw that he was taking control of the fight. He's hungry. This is a guy that was on the brink of retirement and, didn't have many shots or, similar opportunities in his future. And so he went for it. And the body work ended up getting the first knockdown. It was a beautiful, looked like a straight right hand to Machado's midsection that he just didn't handle well, turned away and took a knee for the first knockdown. He did get up. Cancio moved in with both hands, right and left hooks, going right back to that body to the same spot, and dropped Machado again. I didn't think he was going to get up then, but you could kind of see he was trying, but you could see the fight was gone from him. Then he does get up, and then he gets swarmed for the third and final knockdown before the ref waved it off. And great fight, great moment. Cancio had a great crowd, local crowd there at Indio. And one thing that I noticed was the trainer, and I don't know if that's Francisco Santana's dad. I'm not sure, but Francisco Chia Santana, it was a guy on there, gray-haired guy with the mohawk. But I don't know if that's Santana's father or not. But I like that trainer a lot, man. I was down in Louisville last August or July. And I sat ringside and was taking, writing and covering that was that Jose Sulaiman International Welterweight or Invitational tournament where Santana took out Felix Diaz. And I really loved this coach's communication to Chia. And he was very calm, but his voice was, just giving very specific instruction, keeping it simple, and just great communication, and really coached Chia to a big upset win that night, a dominant win over Felix Diaz. And it was a similar situation here. I believe there was another guy who was maybe the chief's second that was dealing directly with Cancio. But definitely to have this guy as part of the team just caught my eye. And like I said, he really might be an underrated trainer, but just seems to get a good response out of his fighters. So, shout out to Cancio. I believe that moved him to 24-2. And honestly, I don't know, what good it does for Tank to fight the other two. The guy that's holding the other two WBA belts at super featherweight, but I think that would be a damn good fight. Cancio, he gets a little squared up. He got a little squared up against Machado, but that's because he was, everybody that stick and move and hit and not get hit, that doesn't work for everybody. And for him to take Tank's blows, if he makes that same mistake or has that same flaw in his game and Tank exploits it, it could be a short night. But anyway, like I said, I just want to see a real super featherweight in the ring with Tank. I don't want to see somebody coming up from super bantamweight and featherweight. I want to see a full-fledged 130-pound guy. It'd also be a great opportunity. I'm assuming that Oscar De La Hoya has, some options or something on Cancio, moving forward and whatnot. It'd also be a good chance for Mayweather to work with De La Hoya. I know they have a personal rivalry, but I think I think it'll be an action-packed fight. And I'd probably take Gervonta to win it, but who knows? I mean, this is a guy that showed a lot of grit, getting up off the canvas in the first and coming back against a guy, a solid puncher, a guy with good reach and length, a good combination of everything for that weight class, and he took the guy apart. So you never can underestimate that type of guy. Beautiful moment though. Had his family in the ring. Like I said, a strong contingent. In the first 3 or 4 rounds. Rows right there. It was a strong group of a large sized number of fans there rooting for him and stayed behind. After the post fight interviews and all of that, and just a great moment. So this was at Fantasy Springs Casino in Indio, California. Really, the other fight, I believe it was the co-feature, was Rey Vargas, WBC super bantamweight title holder, against Franklin Manzanilla. Just a good win by Rey Vargas. He moves to 33-0, retains his WBC belt. Franklin Manzanilla had Vargas down in the second from a beautiful left hook. One of those shots where, you stay in too long and don't expect a guy to be throwing that punch, but it was coming. It landed right on the button and dropped Vargas immediately. But he went down, regrouped, got back up, and just boxed his way, basically using his lid. That's one thing with him. He's another guy. He's 5'11", I think. I wrote it down. 5'11 and a half, I believe, or maybe 5'10 and a half. Franklin Manzanilla was at like 5'6" I think 5'8" maybe. But that was it. Vargas just stayed clean the rest of the way, with the exception of the dirty tactics come into play, which was something that he feared going into the fight. Manzanilla is one of those guys that pushes, he's up to and touching with what the rules are. An accidental headbutt. He lost 2 points in the fight. Lost it by 117, 108 on all 3 cards. Vargas spent the last 3 or 4 rounds kind of trying to maintain space and keep Manzanilla outside as to avoid getting a 4th cut. But that was pretty much it. I would have liked to see it. I mean, he landed some good right hands. He's a guy, not a lot of head movement. He fights with his chin straight up in the air a lot, and that's how he got clipped by Manzanilla in the second. But just a solid fight. The other major fight or more noticeable or noteworthy fight on here was Joseph Diaz Jr. moving up to super featherweight for a bout against a good friend of his, Chris Huerta. Good performance by Diaz. I'm not necessarily sure that it solidifies him as a threat at super featherweight. Kind of had me also thinking about Gary Russell Jr. I didn't mention this on the video last night, but Gary Russell Jr. challenging Tank Davis. I don't even know if I should get into that, but I don't know if I really like Gary Russell's. I like that he's looking at the fight and has said that he wants it, and I think it'd be great if it was something they could do in the DMV and make that work. I guess it's good, but I don't really like Gary Russell Jr.'s chances to take out But two shorter arm guys, but a lot more power from Tank. The hand quickness, hand speed by Gary Russell Jr. would be interesting. It's a good fight. It's a good fight, I guess. But back to Diaz, he called out. He said if Zucan or Zucan, however you want to pronounce it, who won a title a week or two ago against Jesus Rojas. But he said if he wanted to fight, or it was one other guy he mentioned at featherweight, if they called him out, he would gladly move back down to 126. He was rocking Huerta with everything, catching him with clean shots for a good 5 or 6 rounds before he started. He took his foot off the gas a little bit in the 7th round, and Julio Diaz, let him know that he disapproved of him taking his foot off of the gas and letting Huerta work his way back into the fight. But Diaz went on to win 99-91 on all 3 cards. Just a better class fighter. Landed the heavier shots all night. Again, I don't know. Shout out to those 2 guys to be as to be the level of friends they are, and then to go in there and bang and put in a good solid 10 rounds. Although Huerta dropped off after probably won the first round. That's where the round that probably all 3 of the judges gave him was the first round, when he did land his best shots. But I like I said, I don't know if that makes Diaz a I think he did call out Tank Davis. He said he liked that fight, but I don't know. Other than that, man, on the DAZN card, lightweight, Oscar Duarte, rising guy, dropped, or he did not win the vacant WBC Continental Americas title in a 10-round fight against Adrian Estrella. Estrella just boxed all night, used his length. Duarte was waiting a lot. It kind of looked like, with him being the A side, you thought maybe he would get this fight. He landed most of the heavier shots, and probably had the advantage in the power punch count. But Estrella just boxed and moved all night. Stayed busier, used his length, and he got beat up a little bit, got bloodied up, I believe, but he ended up winning it 97-93, 94. Actually, I'm sorry. He won it 96-94 and then 98-92 on 2 cards. And then one judge did have it for Duarte, 97-93. Also on that card, Azad Hovhannissian took apart Lolito Sansona in a 5-round knockout at super bantamweight. Another Freddie Roach trained fighter, and good performance by Hovhannissian. I like that he kept the pressure on. It was a very physical fight while it lasted. Lots of good action in it. Sansona, came to fight, took the fight, I believe, on 3 weeks notice. I believe he came from overseas to fight. He just was outgunned, but pretty good fight there, pretty good win, performance for Hovhannissian. But the big fight here before I switched over to the Showtime card was super middleweight action featuring Tureano Johnson coming up from middleweight versus Fernando Castenda. Castenda is a former sparring partner of Canelo Alvarez. And this guy put on a hell of a performance. I mean, the guy's 20. He moved to 27-13 with that victory, but just Tureano Johnson, drew the ire of Andre Rozier all night. He seemingly made this fight way more difficult than it needed to be. It ended up ending in a split decision draw, 76-76, and then 8-round card. So 76 or 77-75 on two judges' cards, each of them finding it for the other fighter. So split decision draw, but Fernando Castenda fought himself into a good money fight probably, and Tureano Johnson, they mentioned that he was pretty frustrated coming off of missing the opportunity to fight on the Canelo Rocky Fielding card in Madison Square Garden and face David Lemieux. And he looked like a guy who, even after the fight, Rozier was cutting him up after the fight when he was trying to give his opinion on some different things, and Rozier was very vocal with him, very displeased with how he fought that fight, and thinking that he allowed this fight to be a split decision draw when he should have. Him being 20-2 going into the fight, he should have looked great against Castaneda and lined himself up for something better. And he went out here and got rocked by Castaneda several times. I'm honestly amazed that there wasn't at least one knockdown. Castaneda with just landing some thudding shots, overhand rights, just a good, rock'em sock'em fest. And Tureano rarely was able to stick to the game plan and follow the instructions that Rozier was trying to give him. Over the second half of the fight, he was demanding that he stick and move, fight smart, avoid the big firefights, use his footwork and experience to just outbox this guy. But Johnson, time and time again, found himself inside, mixing it up. And Castaneda, I probably would have given the fight to him, to be honest. Just landing the heavier shots more consistently throughout the fight. He seemed to love the action, and Tureano just really seemed like he was there going through the motions. Looked like he got tired in the 7th and the 8th. There was a couple rounds, I want to say, maybe in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, where Tureano kind of quelled some of the fire in Castaneda. And for a while, Castaneda's, his power seemed to go away after Johnson really tore into him a little bit and settled him down. But like I said, Castaneda showed a lot of heart, fought back into the second half of the fight, finished stronger, and was going for the stoppage, and just, displayed that real warrior spirit, that Mexican boxing and all of that, just brought all of that, embodied all of that in the fight, and really probably deserved a win, but, that didn't happen. So that's pretty much the DAZN card. It was a little better than what I thought it was going to be. Obviously, with the Machado upset, it was good to see Diaz back in action. Diaz is a good fighter. I like his body work. I like his skill overall. He just might be at a situation where he doesn't have a weight class where he can become a world champion at versus all of the current belt holders. Is there a chance for him somehow, to fight for a vacant title, or is there a match that can be made? Is there a champion that moves into place that he could get that he could win that fight? I don't know. But I like to watch JoJo fight. Knows what he's doing, he can box. It's like I said, it just might be it's just timing. It could be timing. What else was on there? So that's pretty much that. Let me check my time real quick. Yeah. So this ran a little long, like I said. Let me move over to, like I said, go check out the video that I did, the recap of the Showtime card. Kind of don't want to go into that here, even though I just said this would probably be an audio, be available for audio only on the Team Left Jab website, where it's made available on all of the platforms that you would listen to, or download a podcast. But yeah, that's leftjaballnightboxing.com, www.leftjaballnightboxing.com. Like I said, go down and click on that network link. That'll take you over to all of the guys that have podcasts over there. You know, definitely a one-stop shop. I think it's some wrestling over there, some other random sports, a sports frenzy podcast. Like I said, some wrestling, UK specific boxing with Oliver McManus. And then, like I said, I believe these are available on iTunes, Spreaker, Player FM, Google Play, Stitcher, Mixcloud. I'm not familiar with that one. I've seen Blueberry before, but definitely Stitcher, Google Play, iTunes, Spreaker. You can get it all there. I don't know if just Team Left Jab Boxing Radio might be the only one that's available over at Blog Talk Radio. So you can check that out with Sam and some of his one-on-one interviews and the stuff that he does. But again, that's www.leftjaballnightboxing.com. I'm going to close this out. Like I said, sitting back sometimes, man, looking at the various YouTube channels out here. Do what you want to do. Support who you want to support. And for everybody that's doing videos, do what you want to do. Just sometimes for me, in the way that I look at things, not always trying to be the smartest guy in the room or prove that I'm the smartest guy in the room, but taking a look at what you might be doing. This is my justification for what I do and how I spend my money. And this will be up on the video that'll be available on the Pay Me No Mind YouTube channel, where the Bite Down Boxing Bits playlist is located. But it's a graphic over here. This not difficult math. This is very simple. But let's look in January as the boxing calendar was stepping up, and this is just another perspective on where your money might be going or how you might be divvying up your funds towards boxing, and what's going on with pay-per-view, and just some commentary on all of this. But it's a graphic up here with 4 boxes. DAZN, you're paying $9.99, I believe is the cost of that right now, monthly subscription. I'm using it on my phone and my TV. Like I said, the last couple of weeks, 2 things. If we're going to keep it real, keep it funky. Sometimes I can't, there's been some times where the app just didn't work right, on fight night. And, I don't lose my stuff. I don't lose my head over it because of the fact I know, I might be able to come back on Sunday, or maybe, Monday or Tuesday, I can come back and watch the fights individually. They typically put them up, the undercard, and break the fights up where you click on each particular fight that you want to watch. I like that feature. The other thing here is that in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed there's a major delay between the audio and the fight. Now, that doesn't bother me so much on the commentary side, where some of us would prefer to watch the fights with the volume muted. And then if you're not a big fan of Sugar Ray Leonard, maybe that's, something that you're doing anyway. But it is a little bothersome when you can't hear the blows, the force of the blows, when you're not hearing the impact of shots in real time. That's a little bit of a letdown, especially in a fight such as Munguia and Inoue a couple of weeks ago. But what I'm doing, like I said, looking at the month of January, if you paid your $9.99 as an individual, I am one person. I'm only talking about what I do. On January 18th, you had the Andrade and Akavov card. Maybe not the biggest, maybe not the best fight coming into that. I didn't know much about Akavov. And he really, despite having a great nickname in Wolverine and doing, and moving around a little bit and going, getting some rounds in, I mean, he never really threatened Andrade. The stoppage was a little controversial, but it was still it was still a world title fight, a middleweight title fight. And it's Andrade being more active than what we've seen in recent years, as he tries to, get a fight with Triple G or, maybe to face Canelo down the line, it's good to see him in action. This fight was at Madison Square Garden. It was what it was, but also on there was the return of Jorge Linares versus Pablo Cesar Cano. That was a damn good fight. I mean, and there was a lot of interest in what would Linares do at super lightweight. Cano showed us that might not be the place for him to go, putting him away. I believe that was the first round? Yeah, first round stoppage. Also on that card was Doheny versus Takahashi. Doheny, I believe he's from the land down under, I thought, but he's Irish, but I think he's in either New Zealand or Australia. I hadn't seen this guy, but he's a world title holder. Takahashi, he banged, he was overmatched, but Doheny, it was good to see him because it's a chance that Doheny can fight Daniel Roman. So that's what I'm getting to here with my $9.99 that I pay for DAZN. Being that I cover boxing to a certain degree, you can check out bitedownboxing.com. You can check out my pieces, my posts over at roundbyroundboxing.com, also womenofboxing.com. This allows me to see more action. And, when I do get the opportunity to actually sit down and write some stuff, I can be more the breadth of, fighters that I'm aware of and who are on my radar. This allows me to cover more ground. Also on there was Serrano versus Vorberger with Cindy Serrano winning her seventh title in a seventh division, winning the title in the seventh division. Vorberger was blown away that night, 35 seconds, something like that. That wasn't good, but it was what it was. Also got to see Rashad Mati versus Gabolo on there. Mati is probably less than 5 fights in, but he's a guy that I think Hearn is interested to see whether this guy can be a player moving into the future. So that was the January 18th card. Also on January 26th was a chance to see Jaime Munguia versus Inoue, which ended up being a damn good fight. Good action. Munguia working on some different things, getting pressed a little bit with the pressure from Inoue, a guy who was able to take Munguia's power. I don't know how this was a bad fight. Munguia is a guy who's calling out the Jared Hurds of the world. He's calling out a Canelo. He's calling out a Jacobs. He's calling out a Andre. That's probably a fight that could get made at some point in time. If both of those, if Munguia decides to quit making 154 and wants to go up, and Andre is looking for a better name, somebody more noticeable than an Akavov, that's probably a fight that could get made. So this is a chance for me to check in and check on the maturation of Jaime Munguia and see. It seems like right now we're seeing quite a few Japanese fighters more frequently, at this time, and in a way it was good action. Also on that card, that was a world title fight. Jesus Rojas versus Zhu Can on BoxRec. He's listed as Can Zhu, and then when he was announced on that fight, he was Zhu Can, and then after the first round, Brian Kelly and those guys turned him into Zhu Khan. So I don't know what his name is, but he's 16-2 after upsetting Rojas. That's probably a fight of the year. I mean, honestly, that's probably a fight of the year. I didn't know much about Khan going into it, but Chinese cat. They even said that he couldn't speak English during the fight, but then he easily does the interview in the ring after the fight in, intelligible English, in silent English. So I don't know where they were. Like I said, they changed my man's name over the course of the fight and whatever. But that was a damn good fight. And then also on that card was a chance to see prospect Virgil Ortiz Jr. against Berrien. And I don't know if Ortiz Jr. is going to make all the noise in the world at welterweight. I didn't get that from that performance. He is 13 or 14-0 with like knocking out everybody that he's faced except for maybe like one or two opponents or maybe just one. But it was a good chance to see him. All those that's Golden Boy talent right there. If you want to make that criticism about DAZN that it's not Eddie Hearn, that's Golden Boy's talent. Okay, fair enough. But again, for $9.99, this isn't bad. If you want to argue about the pay-per-view, 4 pay-per-view type fights he plans to bring online, that's going to take time. But I'm still not upset at the effort. I'm still not upset at there being more competition. And before I get to the other 3 boxes, Golden Boy's president, Eric Gomez, was on Friday night at the fights on XM maybe last week. And while we're sitting here arguing about promoters and aligning, having our alliances to promoters and networks and all of this stuff, Eric Gomez was very complimentary of the deal that Al Heyman and the PBC got with Fox and what they're doing with Showtime. Very complimentary. So again, like I said, competition here is going to make all of this stuff better. Last comment before I move on from DAZN. When I'm sitting here and watching videos and you're talking about Anthony Joshua said he'd never fight in America, and now he's fighting, reportedly, still hasn't been announced, but it looks like we're headed for Anthony Joshua and Jarrell Miller. Don't be that ignorant with your hate. Obviously, you got to know when you won. Deontay Wilder's and his camp's moves have forced Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua off of their square. The Wembley date is all but dead. And this is a reaction to what's going on. And now, while it didn't make sense for the biggest fight in the game to necessarily not to concede that to American soil because of everything that's at stake there, it does make sense to come over and have a fight in New York. It's not like he's fighting him in Mulvane, Kansas, but it makes sense to have a fight with Jarrell Miller, who they've invested in. And the same way as Tyson Fury being a good option, a great option for Wilder to gain leverage, this helps Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua gain some degree of leverage by coming over and fighting in Madison Square Garden, facing Jarrell Miller, who's going to drive the publicity, being the mouthpiece there. And it gets to introduce American fight fans in the flesh to Anthony Joshua. So, and this would have never happened if, the Dillian White fight was made for, April 13th with Joshua, or this is all good stuff. Guys, they're just like boxing. They're countering each other, and it may not be a knockout, or maybe, depending on how you're looking at it, but it's business. It's all about, they've been trying to get this leverage. We're out here negotiating the fight on social media and on these YouTube channels. And at the meantime, at the end of the day, these guys have to have fights. They have to make moves. They have to earn. And, I'm not really going to go into the whole $32 million purse for, reported purse for, Joshua in this fight with Miller. But that's a illogical argument. Now he's fighting here. They're trying to counter the moves that the excitement from the Tyson Fury fight with Wilder, the impact of that draw, how that upset the calendar. Now the rematch is being put together. So they had to do something. So how could you be mad at that? And if you're a Joshua and Hearn hater, you get to sit here and see what the ticket sales are. And the fight will be on DAZN most likely. So we don't know what the ratings will be. We might get a look at what the spike is in DAZN subscriptions and whatnot. But it's business. Like, how could you ignore the business of this stuff just to make a point and be wrong? That's like conscientiously being stupid. But anyway, so that's the $9.99 that your dollars would have got, the $10 basically that your DAZN would have got you. Now for me, I just wanted my fights to be better than what Friday night fights were delivering. And with there being some world title fights here, these might not have necessarily been a great show, comparable to a great Showtime Saturday night. But this past Saturday night, this Munguia card and this Andre, those are almost neck and neck. But let's look at this also on January 18th was ESPN Plus for $4.99, $5 from me. Bryant Jennings versus Oscar Rivas, Shakur versus Rosales. Great performance from Shakur. The Cancio and Ambry's fight. I was familiar with Ambry's from fighting the Lozado kid out in Anthony Lozada out in Phoenix, Arizona on the Beltran and Pedraza fight. So he's a pretty tough kid. Not a lot of power, but hell of a chin. Jason Sosa against Delgadillo was good banging. I missed the Gab Nazarov versus Garcia, and I missed the Carlos Adames versus Ruiz fight, but I did see the Krishnan Andre guy who was either super welterweight. I think he was super welterweight. Maybe from he was either Indian or I think Indian, not Pakistan. But that was for $5. But again, to see Shakur, a great performance from him. And to see the Jennings fight was fairly decent with a huge ending. That was $5.99. I'm not mad at my money spent there. January 19th, the next night, Showtime Championship Boxing or Showtime Pay-Per-View, $75, $74.99 for Pacquiao and Broner. 2 title fights there, the Ubali and Rashid Warren. And then, basically an eliminator and a secondary belt between Brown and Jack. I did not buy that fight. I put out the video of why I was sitting that one out. Don't need to rehash that. Going into it, though, I didn't feel the other reason. I didn't feel like this was pay-per-view worthy anyway. So, again, personally, for my own dollars, no, I wasn't buying that. I'm probably not going to buy on April 20th. I'm probably not buying Crawford and Khan. I'm sorry. And I don't know if that one will be available in the theater. Pacquiao and Broner was available at the theater. I didn't get a price on that. I wasn't even going to check it out there. But in the Midwest was this polar vortex thing. And a lot of us were snowed in. When I came home from getting some dinner that night, we had lost power for about 40-some minutes before the start of this fight. So let me see. So if I was even going to bother trying to get X amount of friends over to go in on this card to help pay for it, and the roads were as bad as they were, and it was as cold as it was, chances are I probably would have been on the hook for buying this for myself and probably having to pay the whole $75 out of my own pocket. And I'd have been a little pissed. I'd have been a lot pissed off. But anyway, it was basically a success with the 320-some thousand, 300 to 320-some thousand estimated buys. Pacquiao got his $20 million guaranteed. Broner, had his 2.5 plus some points on the package. The Brown and Jack fight really didn't deliver. Beside, due in part to the large gash on the forehead of Brown. Unfortunately, like I just mentioned at the beginning of this, I didn't get to check out the Ubali Warren fight because I didn't watch it on the replay, and now the on-demand does not have that. It doesn't include that fight, so I just missed out on that altogether. So, very simple math. You do your 75 versus the 5 for ESPN Plus versus the 10 for DAZN, and you tell me what you tell me what's cheaper. You tell me what was better value. Not only one thing with the barbershop video to compare these two, you got to take into consideration the number of times that you're going to watch DAZN per month. It's going to be some months where there's 2 and 3 cards on DAZN. Who knows if that happened again with the World Boxing Super Series, kind of being up in the air. That was kind of what was creating the 3 fights in a month thing. But, yeah, like I just mentioned, there was 2 cards this month for that $9.99. And then over here for one night only, was the Pacquiao and Broner fight for $75. The math is pretty simple to me. But also just to keep it funky, PBC on Fox and FS1, obviously in January, on January 13th, had the Uzcategui and Caleb Plant fight, with Plant pulling off the upset. Did very well with the ratings. Brandon Figueroa was on there destroying Moises Flores, and then prospect rookie Joey Spencer Tate destroying Harder, and then Rigon Dial in the prelims on FS1, destroying Delgado in the first round. LB Ali taking apart an aged Alan Green, and then Delgado versus Lopez. So that one was obviously free. You needed cable to watch FS1, the FS1 prelims. But you tell me what's what. And like I said, I would hope that everybody is doing what they want to do to take care of their boxing, I don't want to say their affinity for the sport, or for the way that they want to follow the sport. I would hope that everybody's doing what is in your best interest, depending on the amount of action that you want to see. And if you feel like you're not getting your money's worth, you act accordingly. And, that's get somebody's password. That's go to a friend's house. If I'd have known somebody that was watching the Pacquiao and Broner, I might have been up to go to somebody else's fight party, even for other pay-per-views. I might be up for it if I have a buddy's house that I can go to, because I have no problem walking in the door and putting my $10 or $15 in your pocket. But you hold a party and people want to come through the door and sit around, and eat and drink, and then having went and torn their money out their pocket for you. And then, at the end of the night, it's got to be that awkward moment. Like, can I get my 10? So this, like I said, DAZN for me has worked out well. I can't get the whole thing with the Rocky Felding. The Rocky Felding fight and the absence of the truly big fights. I wasn't the one sitting here complaining about Al Heyman and PBC, the time by model. I wasn't complaining about that. I was watching the fights. And so here I'm watching the fights. They're trying something new. I'm glad that guys like Tevin Farmer are taking advantage of this platform. He's a guy that wasn't landing on HBO or Showtime easily. He's over here with a couple of fights. So, it'll be interesting. Jacobs went over there. Rosado's appeared over there. I believe Rosado will be back on this next Farmer card on March 15th and whatnot. So again, I hope all fighters and promoters are doing their thing with the arrival of DAZN and that platform being out there. And then that's it. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. As J. Cole said in this middle child thing, do as you please. It's your money. Do what you want to do with it. These videos are out there. Click on what you want to click on. Support who you want to support. And I'm getting ready to get on out of here. That was pretty much all I had to talk about. Good luck tonight, or enjoy the fights tonight. Like I said, with the NFL season concluding, it's a good look that ESPN had this card on a Sunday night, Ramirez versus Zepeda. That's another thing that amazes me. People want to talk about, I had another 5 minutes, but people want to get on the forums and social media and say you don't know and downplay the success of something, and because you didn't know where a fight was scheduled. There's plenty of outlets out here that run articles, and there's plenty of people that I know that are publishing articles with fight times, with where you can tune in to catch it, breaking down fights, tail of the tape matchups, whether it's on this app, whether it's on the ESPN or the ESPN Plus. It's tons of that. And it's almost like if you could get past trying to hate and troll and take your shots, maybe you could cue in on the stuff that's actually out here helping to disseminate information and get you together, and you could take advantage of that versus just sitting here lobbing grenades over the wall about BS. So, but like I said, like J. Cole said, do as you please, man. Enjoy your life. Hey, I'm out. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, make a comment, or pay me no mind. It doesn't matter. I'm out. 1.